Hi, Alexei. How are you today? Yes, I know. I've been hearing about that. Are they doing some sort of a fortification in the event of a mass telemedication exposure? I foresee one of those on the horizon. Hey, remember when I was talking to you about that Jerusalem plan they had a while ago? Yeah, right? And then I got kind of concerned because they were trying to divert it through the islands. You know, the other islands? Yeah. And I didn't get confirmation at the time, but sometimes these ways have a way of working out. Yes, it was. It was actually very important to acknowledge at the time, I'm sure, as you know as well. Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. These cycles of nuclear activities have a way of coming back around, especially if they're not attended to appropriately in the time, right? Which is why it's very important to get the facts on the record and to assure that the first response is one that can hold up for the long run. Yes, well, my understanding is that within the last 3 to 4 days, stateside here in the United States, that there's been some reconsiderations. I think that they've tried to bandy about a couple of different terms they're hoping will stick, but I'm most concerned with that incendiary event that happened yesterday. Right. And it's eerily similar to what happened in 2015 that was not reported on for 2 years afterward. And then only marginally. Right, that whole announcement from CENTCOM that wasn't followed up on. And yet was discussed, at least in some manner, several years before as part of somebody's election campaign, right? And to this day, no charges have been brought. And we've had a couple of incidents. Right. Well, I mean, there was that information I sent you about that article I wrote and the concerns I had about its misrepresentation in the digital media. Well, for one thing, there's no verification of the actual time on the official website. It has a certain timelessness to it. And the original publication had a different name. And I do not believe that its juxtaposition in the actual magazine is what they're saying it is online. It's very different, profound implications when applied in such manners. I did not know at the time it was ever going to be put online, to be honest with you. And it's a very important factor. How many of us that were involved in media, including print media, at a certain period of time, did not have the foreknowledge that there was going to be a later translation of formats and what it would mean if that format change occurred, especially if there wasn't process already engaged to authenticate what had been put on the record. Right, and then you lose the original print, or you just make it inaccessible. Well, it's not the same thing. And if there's something that happens in the translation of format, well, I mean, accusations of libel become something more than just political expediency or campaign gimmicks. They have very profound ramifications, including on security, up to and including national security. Huh? Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing: a similar nuclear incident has appeared, but with different demographics, right? Well, see, at the time, the understanding was that this was something that was happening in the characterization of those that were involved as being refugees, exiled because of discrimination, but in a context of understanding that that discrimination had to contend with the real existence of occupation by a foreign government. Well, this is different. This is just supposed to be presented as it was a little way down the line when they were talking about a new genre. All those randy boys in uniform just getting a little frisky with each other, right? And putting it on film, ostensibly while they're actually in performance of their official duties. Yes, it's a very different kind of nuclear incident. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those videos of those beautiful Russian women, border guards, that made all those videos in their dorm that got circulated around. Everybody wanted to talk about the beauty of the Russian woman. You remember that? I know. That's something you have to contend with now, and you will have to contend with more in your administration's future. But as it is, I'm very concerned about this, and I want you to know that insofar as I have any decision in the matter, every single one of them are going to be court-martialed. Everybody that participated in the filming or distribution of the actual content and material is going to be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Yes, and we're going to make sure that anybody that views it, uses it, or tries to do anything with it, up to and including anything commercial, is also going to be prosecuted. No matter how long it takes. Well, I mean, if we contain it now, then hopefully we can engage a process that acts as a deterrent, especially a deterrent that understands there are highly racialized implications in what is being presented and how it's being presented right now. That would not bode well to and for those who are genuinely committed to, what do they call it? Human rights? Mm hmm. Yes. Well, it doesn't really matter to me, honestly, Alexei. They were old enough, they were consenting adults. And if they were in a situation where, as part of their training, they were enticed into engaging in some sort of completely inappropriate sexual activity, including in manners that legally constitute fraternization or might compromise effective and efficient delivery of command, insofar as it might be needed at a moment's notice in performance of their actual duties as members of the military, well, then it doesn't really matter, right? They should never have done it to begin with. Nobody should ever made a joke about it. And they certainly shouldn't have tried to make some justification for tolerating it under the auspices of nuclear activities. I am well aware that it is one of a potential three-pronged assault, including one that's already been budgeted for, in the national security matters related to nuclear security of a country foreign to the one in which it was originated. This brings up very significant questions regarding command in my own country, right? Well, this is why I don't consider these sort of things the media would put out to be anything that would chastise them unless they can't back it up. If they've created this as propaganda, then that will be exposed. But if this is actually something that was engaged, including with some sort of operational intent, with an anticipation they would be able to accomplish some sort of objective that they could try to say was military, it is not. There's no legitimate military objective in trying to promote these sort of matters and in trying to make jokes about them. The days of whatever was supposed to be the advantages of a process like MK Ultra getting covered up have passed. We didn't get much of a payoff for it, and I'm not about to refinance it, if you know what I mean. Yes. Well, I trust you're keeping your steel about you, right? I understand that you have a lot of catching up to do. Opposition research, I think they call it. Well, it just means you're going to be very well armed. As always, it was great to talk to you. Have a good evening.